All right, welcome everyone. My name is Christian. This is my lovely wife, Amber, and this is the first episode of the Golden Age podcast and YouTube channel. Amber, welcome to the first episode. We got a wonderful episode for you today. It is the kickoff of what we consider the Golden Age, the rebirth of the American dream, and a wonderful time to be alive for many reasons. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. We're going to document a lot of that stuff that's happening and have a really great discussion. Now, the purpose of this podcast is throughout what would be considered the Golden Age, we will be working with people as a collective community through the podcast to grow wealth during the Golden Age. That includes innovating tech, improving mindset, doing everything that we can to participate and build the rebirth of this wonderful country and this wonderful movement. And so, Amber, what do you think about that?
I think that you forgot one really important thing.
What's that?
Rebuilding health.
Yeah.
Health. Getting healthy again from it at a core level, right? Getting wealthy again. All the things.
Yeah. Really
so
cool.
many times.
So there's a couple things that we have. Obviously, we're going to cover some health, wealth, current events, stuff like that, how it relates to mindset, building the life that you probably never thought possible.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal personally through the podcast, we're going to dedicate 4 years and commit to 4 years doing this podcast. And our goal is to generate collectively within the community that we build at least $1 billion of new wealth coming into our community as a group. And so how we're going to do that is actually really cool. We'll get into a little bit of that further into the podcast. But to kick things off, today was the inauguration of the 47th president, Donald Trump. And I'm not a very political person, and I think Amber's not super political either, but I love inspiration. And I love the things that are happening that are exciting in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether you're political or not, that's okay. Maybe you love Donald Trump. Maybe you don't like him. Either way, we can use this as momentum during the time that we're in right now to begin to build a new way of living, a new life, new technology, exploring new, I guess you'd say, a frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And to kick this off, let's hear from this event that happened today.
It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
All right, so let's stop right there for a second. First of all, I love this idea of the bird on the leash.
Our sovereignty will be
Really represents a lot to think of a new way, it's almost like a rebirth, right? That's kind of how I feel around the situation. How about you, Amber? What do you think?
A rebirth for sure. And I think, a lot of people are feeling the need for that. It was a really hard year last year for a lot of people. I think that we tend to surround ourselves with people who are on a mission to continue being greater in themselves, right? We're just naturally, and we choose to surround ourselves with some people on a positive mission to better themselves and the lives of those around them. And I think that 2024 and maybe 2023 too was just really hard on a lot of people. I think that in business,
I think it started like in 2020, right? When COVID hit.
There you go. I mean, there you go with a new presidential election,
Mhm.
frankly,
Yep.
potentially, right? And again, I'm not that political either. I'm way more excited about politics right now than ever before because I was feeling a real strong need for change to be made.
Yeah.
Especially in the last year. So just to finish that thought I had a second ago, it's just there's a lot of people who are looking for a lot of things to change to set themselves back on track to greatness because I know we had some massive momentum personally. We've been in business for a decade. We celebrated some huge wins followed by some really big losses, and we were dying for change. I know that. So I think that everything that's coming as far as setting ourselves up, like I said, health, wealth, everything, we are now on a path to where those things can come to fruition, I believe, more than they have been since we started business a decade ago.
Yeah, let's talk about the health stuff a bit too, because, I could personally tell you that with business, health, you may not think it connects, but it certainly does, because your performance as an entrepreneur is dependent on your ability to show up, and your ability to show up is dependent on your health. And so I personally went through some health stuff, but there's some things that are happening. I think what has happened and what's interesting about the time that we're living in right now is that there has definitely been this awakening. People are really, really kind of aware of some of the negative things that were coming about with government, with politics, with obviously corporations being taking advantage of certain things. And we won't get into a lot of this. Is hopefully mostly a positive podcast, but what I want to talk about is how we've come to this stage of awareness, and that awareness stage is now manifesting. It's now becoming something that people, they don't want dyes in their food. They don't want, the old ways of doing things. They're way more aware. So tell me your thoughts around the health kind of aspect of what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, it takes me back to college and my career as a nurse. And before becoming a nurse, I was studying nutrition, right? And back in the 90s, we're taught like this food guide pyramid. I'm sure it's still used. And we're taught to like all these foods to avoid. And then a few years later, you learn, oh, you were told that for a reason. And that's not necessarily true. And look at all these health conditions that have come from the way that they've told people to eat. Like, for instance, I don't know how deep you want to go into health, but like if you look at the trends in the diseases that have come about and more prevalent over the last 20 years, diabetes comes to mind right away.
Incredible.
And the fact that they told us to eat all these refined carbohydrates as the primary bottom of the food guide pyramid for so long, right? And this rabbit hole goes so deep. But all I want to say is that people now, more than ever, recognize that what they're being taught isn't necessarily the truth. And they're going into, why were we taught to eat this way? And there's like thousands of things, honestly. I have to choose what I want to talk about in this moment. And I'm so excited that we're going to have these conversations more and more. But more than ever, people are questioning, why can't we have that? Why are these things being restricted from us? Why can't we legally consume these things? And there's all this hidden information about how amazing this could be for your health. And on the flip side of that coin, why are they telling us to eat all this stuff that very, very soon later, or many years so far later, we find out that was not the right thing to do once the damage is already done, and mainstream would say it's too late to reverse those things. Now, you and I are highly educated in a lot of really hidden technologies, thankfully, but most people would say, well, shoot, I shouldn't have done that. Now here I am and I can't fix it. So I think ultimately people are waking up when we talk health and saying, wait a second, let me do my own research, and please let me be able to make my own decisions in the country that I live in regards to my own personal health.
Yeah, and sometimes even if you think you're making your own decisions, you're not, right? Like, for instance, if I go and buy something that I think is healthy at the supermarket, for example, but it's sprayed with pesticides, those types of things. And you might think that you are being healthy. You're trying to be healthy consciously, but there's so many different layers to unpack in order to really enjoy the health benefits the way that you think you are. And so a lot of this podcast is really talking about and revealing some of that too. Like what are the solutions? What are the ways that we can go about finding these things so we can enhance our life, and also simultaneously understanding that also the negative side of things could be good too. The word health, and we're only on the health topic right now, but the word health is, the core word is heal, right? In order for the body to heal, something bad has to happen first. So the big thing here is like, we don't necessarily want to be afraid of the bad or resist the bad thing. We want to be aware of the bad thing. You want to understand how to maneuver through that thing fluidly with flow and not be scared of it. And I think that this is really kind of the for me, the golden age, that's what it represents. It represents that nothing or anything can be golden, right? A negative thing can be golden. The Midas touch can also, on the flip side, if you were touching everything and it was golden, that could also be negative too. So the golden age is really like understanding what to see and what to turn into gold, and how to be aware of the different aspects so you can perceive them differently, right? So to expand your life. Go for it.
This is so good. Okay. So what I'm hearing when you say like the root word is heal.
Yeah.
And just because we need to heal something doesn't mean it's broken, right? I'm rephrasing what you just said. In the gym, when we lift weights and we build muscle, we've essentially not torn, that's not the right word.
Destroyed.
We have to heal that muscle though. And there's nothing negative about what happened there. You're just doing damage for the sake of getting stronger, right?
Right, exactly.
And then what you said about like choosing your battles, like what do we want to work on, right? If I go to the gym and pump the same iron every single day and don't give my body time to repair, there's nothing beautiful is happening there. You have to pick your battles, right? And so the same, like, that's just so beautiful how this analogy goes together, because we get to select what we want to focus on these next 4 years. We really do. I think one of the biggest things to consider here, most people are not doing enough of what they should be doing, but they're doing too much other stuff. So if we can take the beginning of this golden age and we can say, what am I focused on that I don't need to be? Like, and I'm also listening to 10x is easier than 2x right now. So these thoughts are coming in rapid fire. What are we working towards? If we can make that decision now and we can say, okay, what are the couple of things that are going to get me there? And how can I 10x my action taking in those things? And what am I going to actively choose to eliminate so that I can get the result that I actually want? That's going to set all of us up for success in this 4-year timeline. Right now, it's decide what you want and eliminate the rest, because the root word of decide is to decision, incision. What's the D part of decide? It's to cut away the rest.
Right.
And that's really what we need to do first.
And so the first step of that is to become aware of what to cut away, right? And so I think what happened over the course of the last 4 years and some of the stuff that's happened in our business, and if you're watching this, I don't know where you're at in life, but I'm sure you've been through some experience like this where you've had a negative thing happen. Now, that negative thing, from my understanding, through what I've experienced as a human being, is usually what comes after that is a positive thing, a very positive thing. In fact, you can't have one without the other, right? So the cool part about the mindset stuff that we're going to go over inside of this Golden Age podcast is how to look at even negative things from a very powerful, transformative, and I would even say positive lens. To articulate that, let me explain something. There's this idea of being a victim, right? You have a lot of people that you can somewhat even say negative type situations, negative people. They typically have a victim kind of mindset. But you can apply a victim mindset to something positive. So it's not necessarily what you're feeling, it's how you assign that feeling to the situation. Perception. I'll give you an example. I can be the victim of winning the lottery, right? And so if you have this kind of like, there's all this negative stuff being thrown at us all the time in this crazy world. But the idea of the Midas touch, or turning something into gold, is understanding that negative thing has a positive perspective somewhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so this kind of goes back to, we can bring it full circle. In order to be healthy, your body needs to heal. In order to heal, your body needs to somewhat be unhealthy. Right? Or like going to the gym.
To be tested somehow.
To be tested, to put pressure on. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard something really great a few weeks ago. It was, I've never met anybody that made it to extremely high levels without being completely destroyed through the process.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think that was Cody Sanchez that said something like that.
Oh.
And so this podcast and our journey together over the next 4 years with this Golden Age podcast is even looking at the negative things and how do we extract them and turn them into gold, right? How do we use those things to create a golden age as an individual with a group of people that is on the same mission, right? So that this is the purpose of this. And this could be applied to health. It could be applied to business. It could be applied to life, relationships, pretty much anything. Because it really does come down to perception and mindset. Now, the flip side, let's go to the flip side. The other side of being, or the opposite of a victim would be a victor. Somebody that always wins, right? But guess what? you can be the victor of something negative. I won't say what, but let's just say maybe like becoming ill, right? So the cool part about this is you can play with this. It's not necessarily like what happens, it's how you perceive what happens and how you use it to make your life better. What are your thoughts?
100%. Yeah, I mean, honestly, with all the amazing work that we've done and that can be done in the world, in the realm of mindset, right? In the realm of mindset and personal development, it's like, well, if I could only give you one thing, like if somebody asked me if you could only give one mindset tip to someone who's never learned anything around mindset, and you could only give them one thing to last this whole 4 years that could get them through every challenge that's going to come up, set them right on their path, every crying night and all the challenges, because let's be honest. Journey to a billion is going to come with some challenges.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? So if you could give one thing, like what would the one thing be? Well, guess what? It would be find a way to view everything that happens through a positive lens.
As much as you can.
Yeah, and like if you just aim to do that with everything and you analyze your perception of everything that happens and you put what Christian said, I'll say it a different way. You've got victim, vehicle, which we'll definitely talk more about on this podcast, and victor. And if you know those things, okay, I'm looking at it like, oh, woe is me, this thing happened to me. That's victim. I'm going to do this. That's victor. And guess what? Neither of those things are going to get you all the way to the goal.
Yeah.
The vehicle is the way to be. And we'll talk more about it, like I said. But there's those three things. And so if you're just analyzing, if you get used to, hey, how am I thinking about this thing? What perspective am I coming from? Because it's not just the victim-minded family member that you get to see on Thanksgiving every year that makes you not want to go hang out with your family. It's not like a thing like this person's a victim, period. No, I have victim moments every week, every month, every day. Christian gets to witness me playing the victim in moments often. It's just human nature. It's how easily can you personally notice that, analyze it, and perceive from a different lens for your own self, or work closely with someone who can do that for you like Christian and I do for one another.
Exactly. And check this out. So it's not just a matter of like, I'm going through a victim stage or a victor stage, or I had a success, or I lost something, whatever the case may be. There are, in every single situation, not just, flows, but in every single situation, this goes down to a macro or a micro level, you will find the two simultaneously.
Oh,
For
both
example,
exist together. Oh,
right.
see. Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump won the election. Good for Donald Trump. Bad for Kamala Harris. Right?
Lots of happy people and lots of unhappy people,
Exactly.
all at the same time. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all at the same time, and you'll look at every single situation, you could find that in any given situation, there are both simultaneously happening at the same time. Right? It's good and it's bad simultaneously. It depends on how we, the perceiver, look at those things and what we decide or what we choose, a better word, to experience. And that could be done through simple awareness and simple mindset techniques, stuff like that. Going back to the clip that you saw earlier about the golden age, the reason why I think this was so impactful is because not necessarily like the person, right? Whether you like him or whether you hate him, there's something interesting happening in the world, right? Doesn't matter who won or who lost. The world was ready for a serious change.
Right.
Right. And so this is trickling down, not just, I mean, the cool part about this is we have a lot of players in the game. As I was watching the inauguration today, I was like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. You have all these people in a room, probably, I would say, at least 5 of the world's most influential people, but more than that, in one room. And to watch the tradition go down, to watch the ritual or the ceremony, the way that it transcribed was really interesting. And I said to myself, I want to experience that, right? I want to be in a room like that. I want to talk to people that are making an impact on this world at that scale.
Yeah.
Some of them were negative, right? There's definitely people in that room that I don't agree with. I actually come from a kind of a conspiracy background, like question everything. And I learned that this is just part of the game. This is just part of the system, right? You can go against the system, you can go with the system's still there. You might as well look at it from a new lens and see it and say, hey, you can appreciate some of the things that come from that. Right now, what Donald Trump is doing and what Elon Musk is doing and what there was Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, it went on and on, right? Like, some of the most influential people on the planet were sitting in that room watching this. And I could just imagine, like, what would it feel like to be at the center of that stage?
Yeah. Like making change in the world.
Making change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What would it feel like to be, I mean, imagine what it would be like to be Donald Trump. It'd be pretty crazy, right?
Well, yeah.
So we got a couple more clips.
Okay, great.
I'm going to learn how to engineer the clips a little bit better. This is new kind of setup. But let's pull up. I want to share. I really like this. This was actually Melania Trump. And hold on, give me 1 second here. I found it fascinating the way that she was dressed. Let's check this out. Was pretty
What do you?
cool. What do you?
It is, think? But well, you're the fashionista of the family. So
well, it's definitely saying something.
Analyze her outfit for us.
It's almost like it's definitely making a statement. It's very classy. It's like covering her eyes, so it's like kind of mysterious. There was a lot of people talking about the way that her
hair's up too. Sorry, go ahead.
Her
continue your thought.
Presence there, and there was a lot of talk around her being almost embodying like a kind of princess. That's kind of what I get, like a Princess Diana kind of presence, where it's like a very feminine, caring but powerful.
Can you play it one more time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you get?
I get I mean business comes to mind. don't mess with me. Different word of choice there. Keep it. Don't F with me, right? And secondly, or thirdly, there's a lot of like groundedness and trust there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care. I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. Let me just get my job done.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I get with Trump too.
Mm.
It's kind of like, enough of the bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's just get some stuff done, right? Let's not play politics and all this stuff, and like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just get some stuff done. And that to me is very, very. It's as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it's very attractive. It's something that I really admire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we watched last night. We watched the pre-inauguration kind of um, what was it, like a show?
Yeah. What do you call that? A rally?
It was like a rally almost, yeah. And this was to me, this was really fascinating because just the show that was put on, right? And like, what did you think about it?
Oh, I thought it was great. I honestly think there's an airiness about it. Like, people are relieved.
Yeah.
I don't think that going the other direction would have been positive for our country.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about to get great.
Yeah, and there's also I would say it's about to get interesting. Now, let's go back a little bit, right? Going back to the positive and negative stuff. I watched Patrick Bet-David talk about this. It was really interesting, but he was saying something along the lines of like, even the people that do not like Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was in office, it was great for them
That's true.
because they were talking about him all the time. It was driving up the views, the numbers, and stuff like that. So this is going to be a very interesting 4 years, right? Doesn't matter what side that you're on. I want something interesting. I want to see something that's like, oh, on the edge of my seat, right? So, what do you think? Let's make some predictions. Let's talk about and first to kind of kick this off. We'll answer that question, but let's have a look at this. This is Elon.
Yes. This, this is what victory feels like. Yeah. And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. This. There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one, this one really matters. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Stone right there. I think that I do not play politics at all, hardly. I really dislike politics for a long time. But I do think that this election mattered.
Me too.
I think that this one was putting it, it was definitely close to the line there. And it was really interesting to see it pan out. I didn't really know what to expect. I think it was kind of the tipping point for a lot. Like it was like the moment we all knew that needed to happen and it was going to happen some way, and it just happened to be the right way this time, right? In organized fashion, I guess you would say.
Yeah, right.
But let's hear it. Let's hear you, Elon. I don't really know what to think about that, by him saying that. I mean, obviously they know a lot, right? So, and he's trying to go to Mars. I don't know what to think about that either, but to say something like that is pretty extreme. The future of civilization is assured. Pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Wait a minute. What about the moon?
What about it? Some would say the moon's not a planet, and some would say, yeah, you're right, honey. Mm-hmm. That's often, yeah.
I think that pretty much sums it up, right? This whole thing that's happened is very inspirational.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, okay, that's real authenticity. Whether we're going to go to Mars or we should, or it doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, in this moment, in this context, what he's saying there is authentic to him.
Mm.
He's telling the truth in this moment, right? And people want to stand for something the way that he stands for that.
Mm-hmm.
And people are starting to see dreams come to fruition on the global stage instead of so many secrets being kept like they have been since the beginning of time. And they're still there, don't get me wrong. But there's like a little peek through the curtain where they're like, oh, maybe we can change things and live in a world and live in a country that really does stand for freedom and allows us to live out our fullest potential and allows us to make more money to support our families and spend our lives doing what we really want to be doing. And I think Elon is an example of that on the highest possible level and still relatable because of his personality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and
he's
to think that
at this moment, he's the richest, the most wealthy person on the planet.
And let's be honest.
By a lot, too. Not just by, like, almost like 2 times. I'll look it up, but
yeah.
I think it's like either 2 times what Bezos is worth and 3 times what Zuckerberg is worth. The top 3, right? I think Zuckerberg's like 4, Bezos is like 2. I'm not sure who's in between, but he's almost those 2 combined.
Which he would probably, I mean, I'm not here to say who would do what, or really, I mean, but he would probably give all that to live out his purpose. Like, that really is his authentic purpose.
I think that's actually what got him there, to be honest.
Right.
Because I don't know the story, like, I've heard the story enough to be like, oh, that's really interesting how it went down. And I've heard kind of 2 sides of the story. One controversial, where it's like, you know, he's not necessarily a great person and all this stuff, and the other one's very inspirational. Who knows what to think? However, in this moment right now, he's very inspirational, and if I can kind of look at any position on the planet and say, you know, that's the person I would like to be in a position where you get to explore the universe, you get
that much
to explore
influence.
Technology, you basically have every resource that you can imagine is at your fingertips. That would probably be a pretty cool place to be, right?
Yes.
So, you know, that's, to hear him say stuff like that is it's inspirational. It's also really interesting. And the way that he said it, that's why I brought that clip up. The way that he said it was, I mean, I don't really know how to put it into words. It was fascinating.
Which thing exactly?
Well, number one, that this could have been the end of civilization. Number two, basically he said we're about to do some things that have never been done before, and we're really going to push the limits on humanity. Right? Like we're going to explore places that we've never explored, and that's Mars, other planets, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool stuff.
My take on this is that he knows something that where he would have gotten throttled so hard with the other administration that he wouldn't have been able to live out his dream.
Oh, I'm sure.
And your dream needs to believe that humanity depends on it to have the kind of impact that he has, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, one last thought. We can villainize anyone that we want. So it's kind of an easy target to villainize someone that's that excited about continuing the mission.
Yeah, and even I would even say, like, usually, you know, the wealthy, they're definitely villainized to a high degree, right? A lot of people are against wealthy. You know, one of the things that the last administration would talk about a lot is, you know, how the most wealthy people in the world need to be basically, you know, taxed and punished, right?
Because it challenges their belief systems and it makes everything they believe about the world wrong, and it brings so much regret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. All right, check this one out. This is a really interesting one. This is where I want to go to next. I want to talk. Well, let's talk about this. So, based on what you've seen with Elon, you haven't seen the inauguration yet. We're gonna watch that as a whole, but we can't go over that on the podcast. The whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's happened with Trump. You know, so what do you think about the next 4 years? What do you think? What does that look like?
I
Make some
can't wait.
predictions.
I honestly think that it's one of those things where you can't picture how good it can get. That's my hope, at least. I think finances are going to turn around for tons of people. We're going to be in a healthy, wealthy economy.
Yep.
We're going to be able to do things that we want to do with our money. We're going to be able to have our money go farther. We are a rich country and everyone's broke. Why? How do we fix that? How now we have the opportunity, at least with people who believe that that should be fixed.
Yeah, totally.
Health wise, oh my gosh, we're gonna see veil pulled back on so many things that we should not have been consuming. Think about other countries and all the ingredients that are banned, and America is the only place that pumps all these chemicals into our food.
Yeah.
We're going to see, we can really see health turn around. I mean, it's going to take longer to see the effects of it. But when you talk about Alzheimer's and dementia based on our foods that we're eating now and how drastically we're cognitively declining as a culture, it's crazy. The numbers will blow your mind. It's predicted that like 1 in 3 people will have Alzheimer's or dementia within like the next 20 or 30 years, like at a certain age and above, which is just absolutely crazy. So if we can just begin to start to turn that around, if we can see the numbers change, amazing. But if we can at least know that we spent that whole time eliminating things from the food supply that shouldn't have been there in the first place so that our kids can see those types of diseases potentially like drastically decline, or what if they could disappear? What if we look at the next 4 years in the perspective of our country as we would on a micro level in our business and say, hey, if I could see this big, amazing thing happen, what if it could be 10 times bigger than I can even see right now? That's the way I want to look at the golden age.
Let's go backtrack a little bit. We had some weird things happen right before the election. The so-called drones, which are more like orbs. And check this out. Amber and I personally saw orbs in our city. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we went out orb chasing a few nights trying to find him again.
Yeah.
But they were definitely doing weird stuff that airplanes and lanterns and other things do not do.
Do not do. And there was also the same ones. We kind of did some research on it and tracked them down. Same exact ones were spotted in Miami, and we're on the other side of Miami. So
we're on the outside of Florida from Miami, so the whole state.
Dr. Stephen Greer come out, and a whistleblower came out around the idea of UFOs and ETs and stuff like that, right? So we had this kind of happen over the course of the last couple, I would say 4 or 5 weeks. Then we had the inauguration. So here's what I'm getting at is there's definitely, it's not just a change in administrations and policy. This is a change in consciousness, right? Everything that we talked about in this show today is talking about becoming aware of how to handle negative situations in a positive light, understanding health, and because of awareness, these really strange phenomenons happening. The richest people in the world are talking about going to another planet and doing things that humans have never done before. Look at the landscape. What this to me shows is the next 4 years are going to be some of the most pivotal years in human history. What we are going to see over the course of the next 4 years is not only going to be exciting, but it's going to be, it will never be the same. It's going to change the course of humanity forever. Now just think about that, right? Think about the magnitude of that. And then ask yourself right now, do you want to be a part of that? I sure as hell do, right? Political or not, I don't really care. I want to be in the game. I want to get in the center of this awareness and experience it to the highest degree that I can, right? Political or not.
Yeah.
That's why we started this show. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
That's why we started this show. So we can be fully involved with this crazy pivot, or not pivot, but expansion of what's happening on this planet. Pretty cool.
Well stated.
So I want to get into one more, because this one's more about business stuff for the business people watching and markets. And we'll talk about markets a lot. We'll talk about mindset, psychology, spirituality, health, all the good stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah.
But I want to show this one because this one's from, this one's got something that I'm really into. But he's talking about markets and talking about the effect and what markets to be involved in as we go through the golden age.
Let's hear it.
That's $1 million question. Well, we've got Doge, we've got all these people coming in, we've got Elon Musk, we've got Trump, and everybody is super euphoric about what's going to happen. So I would use something called dollar cost averaging. If you've got some money you want to put in the market, what sectors do you think are going to do the best? What can we expect
in 2025 in the stock market?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. Well, what I didn't expect was 29% in 2024, right? It was a huge year. It was an election year, which historically is very volatile. People don't know what's going to be going on. And when you look at what has happened since November in the stock market, it's been, and I've been in the market since 1998. I've never seen anything like this. Now, people thought, maybe Trump gets in, and then we called it the Trump rally. Some things were rallying up, and usually there's a saying: "Buy on the rumor, sell on the news." So what I thought was going to happen, you see this little bit of a run up into the election. Trump gets elected. You have a couple of days of euphoria, then things kind of sell off, and people start worrying about things again. Well, that hasn't happened. We're right now at the end of the year. We've seen a little bit of a pullback, but largely we've just seen rotation where you might see tech do great, and then the market doesn't crash. It just shifts to industrials, and then it just shifts to healthcare. So the resiliency of this market, I think, based off of what's going to be happening with the new administration, in my view, has been shocking. So what you always want to think about is, you're asking me about 2025. Well, 2024, we just did 30%. Historically, over a long period of time, the S&P averages 9.5 to 10%. So that's got to get you a little bit worried when you see something rally. The year before was actually a pretty good year. So now you're looking at like 40% in 2 years. Does that necessarily mean the stock market's going to crash? No, it doesn't. But what I would expect is a lot more volatility. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of heavy expectations on this new administration. We've got Doge, we've got all these people coming in, we've got Elon Musk, we've got Trump, and everybody is super euphoric about what's going to happen. I'm optimistic, but I'm also cautiously optimistic, and I don't expect all these things to happen overnight. So what I would say is, I believe the market will do well. I don't think it's going to be straight up like it was before. And so I would use something called dollar cost averaging. If you've got some money you want to put in the market, don't dump it all in right away. Use some of these pullbacks, use some of the scare, use some of the fear, use some of the disappointments, which we're bound to get with some of the new administration, like we would with everywhere. Use those as opportunities to buy, but don't go all in after we've had this huge run.
What sectors do you think are going to do the best?
I think technology is going to continue to be, because technology is what is creating. Technology is a double-edged sword. It's creating the increased productivity, meaning efficiency for businesses. At the end of the day, when we're buying stocks, what we're doing is we're buying the future profits of a company. And the more consistent, the faster growing, the more reliable those profits are, the more that stock is going to continue to go up. And so when you look at technology, there's no industry that I know. Well, let's take one sector of technology, cybersecurity. Well, everything's going to the cloud. Everything's going to AI. If you are a large corporation or small corporation, like my businesses, your businesses, no matter how bad the economy is, are you going to cut your budget for cybersecurity? Are you going to tell your customers, hey, things aren't quite good. We're gonna make your data a little bit riskier? Of course not. So there's going to be increased investment there. Artificial intelligence, other things that are going to increase productivity to make companies more efficient and more profitable, are going to continue to do well. The downside of that, obviously, is there's going to be less people needed to be able to create those jobs. So technology, I believe, is the number one sector out there. Everything is going to be AI driven, robotics driven. That's where the economy in the future is going. That's been really, that picture has been painted for the last 5 to 6 years, and that's where you're seeing the money start to go. Now, you look at other areas where it's almost like when you think about the gold rush back in California.
So, what does this mean in terms of, so look at everything that we've talked about, on this video. It all comes down to one word. And I think that this is really the golden age in terms of technology. I think technology is about to go through hyper evolution, as it has been over the past, I would even say since the birth of the internet, but in the last 4 or 5 years, or I would say 2 years specifically, it's gone through a rapid evolution to where we came from. Basically, like, you can use your phone to basically call a car over to take you without having to call the car
Or bring you
Uber,
food.
bring you food,
Yeah.
right? And now we're about to go into having Jetsons like lifestyle, right? So think about the evolution that has gone down, over the course of the last 10 years, but specifically within the last 3 years, and what it's going to look like even in a year or 2 years, and the time that we go through this podcast in the 4 years. I think that this 4 years is really going to be the fastest, because obviously we're going to hit a plateau with this stuff too, just like in anything, right? So you go through this hyper evolution, then you hit a ceiling. I think that ceiling will come right around the end of this 4 years. And I think that we're going to see some of the most advanced stuff hit within these 4 years during this golden age.
I do too.
What kind of things do you think are going to be possible?
My mind's not on that till I get this thought out real quick.
Sure.
More now than ever, people need to own the fact that building wealth is important. And maybe you're listening to this and you've built wealth and it's time to build more. Maybe it's time to also make sure that those around you understand the importance. Because what happens when I listen to him and investing and growing in a volatile market, big wins, big losses, big risk, big potential gain. How big do you want to play the game? Do you want to be in the game? Do you want to be able to say, okay, I'll play. Let's go. It takes wealth to do that. We come from a long line of the past few decades where don't ask for more than you need. Don't strive for too much. Don't be greedy. Oh my God, greedy, greedy, greedy. Well, guess what? It takes a lot of money to make big change. That's what we're seeing here. If that makes you uncomfortable, I'm calling you to get comfortable with that and own the fact that you want to do that because you want to make great change to help other people make great change. And I think for once and for all, at the beginning of this golden age, we all need to get really comfortable with the idea of making America wealthy again, making you wealthy again, or for the first time ever. But we need to get really comfortable with that. Otherwise, you don't even get a shot at it.
Yeah. One thing that happened recently, so before the inauguration, there was some really interesting things that happened in the market. And I'm not sure how I feel about it, but there was this meme coin. And meme coins are very speculative. They are, I don't think they have a lot of utility. It's more just like fluff. But there's something about memes that people just absolutely love. And it's that intrinsic kind of inspiration that happens with the memes. Well, they basically tied that to crypto and to money, right? And so right before, which was kind of interesting, that right before the inauguration, Trump launched a meme coin and it skyrocketed. It was like the biggest meme coin to hit the market ever.
Mm-hmm.
As that was happening, I felt this like interesting. It wasn't a positive feeling. It was a feeling of like missing out, like, oh shit, this is really happening. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most impactful thing around the meme coin. And that in itself is a meme.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
A meme.
Embody the next level version of yourself. Get in the game.
Yeah, get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That in itself, the idea that a mimetic kind of presence will get some emotion and some feeling moving, right? And so when that happened, I said, oh, shit, like, I want to be investing. I want to be using it like some type of utility, innovating, doing cool things with that. And I'm not really sure, like meme coins aren't my thing, but in the tech space,
Right.
right? And so what you're
You
seeing
want to do
kind of
bigger.
with the Elon stuff and with all this stuff that's hitting, that's what I was feeling is, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
I want to be in the game with the tech stuff. And so this leads me to my next step here. I built for this kind of the golden age podcast and the people that we start to connect with through the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I built a piece of technology that goes with the podcast.
Oh.
So this is the golden, I don't even know what to call it yet, but it's a golden age kind of growth tracker.
Thanks.
And it's going to, this is actually the beginning stages, but it'll allow you to sort of track your progress through the golden age. It'll give you tools to build extraordinary wealth through the golden age. It'll show what we're doing to do that in the process. And really what we're doing with this is we're doing it as an individual that affects the collective group itself too. So
Awesome.
inside of this here, we have, let me go in. We have some really cool tools like, tracking your wealth journey, for example.
Thank goodness. This is awesome.
On the individual level, on the community level. And if you've ever been in the game when it comes to journaling, or Amber loves that stuff, or like tangibly tracking mindset with your daily wins, the lessons for the day. This is stuff that Amber and I will go over to on the podcast. Growth metrics, and then something called SMART goals, which are goals that you set from the top down, but you're not necessarily setting them through any type of strategy. You're setting them so you can see and become aware of them. And so the things that happen in your life can guide you to those things. So it's an effortless way of setting goals, as opposed to looking at your goal from the bottom up and saying, how do I get that goal? Let's say it's becoming a millionaire over the next 4 years or whatever it is. You set that goal and you follow the path. And so you can track your path in the process. And with this software, you'll be able to track your path. You'll be able to track your progress, right? Your milestones. And then that's on the personal level and also the community level. And the goal with this sort of podcast tech approach, the software that we have here, and documenting everything that's happening kind of on the current events and the inspirational level and through mindset practices and the things that all kind of come together, the idea is you can have fun building your wealth in the golden age and track the process as you would in a business. As you would in...
So excited.
Yeah, as you would in things that you do. So this is kind of at the beginning stages right now. I'm still kind of building it, but that's what we have here. And then we have some resources that go in here, like mindset resources and tracking and strategies and stuff like that. And then we also have some ways to share out different current events and different news topics. And that's basically something that goes with what we're doing with this podcast. So the cool part about this is we have a totally free version of this.
Yay.
Totally free. That's for us to give value to you so you can get started, so you can get to know us a little bit better. And then when the time comes, if you want to upgrade, it's only $10, $10 a month. And you can become a little bit more intimate with the community. We can start giving you some more details on how to grow your wealth, how to look at the world, and how to look at the world through a golden lens, let's say, even through negative times. Even though I think this is going to be a very positive time, it doesn't really matter. especially if you're a high-level entrepreneur, you take those negative, and even with investing, those negative times are good because that's when you buy, right?
Right.
When negative things happen economically, that's when some of the most powerful solutions come to market. Those people become millionaires because of those solutions. So look,
Right.
coming back full circle, at the beginning of this podcast, what we talked about is doesn't matter what's happening. Those things are happening simultaneously, negative and positive. The perception, how you see those things, I really believe that that's the key to this golden age. This software that we've created is so you can track and be aware of how you perceive and move through the process. So by the time we're at the end of the 4 years with our commitment during this golden age, and that's, just a time frame on what we're doing with this podcast, you can come back, you can see all the work that you've done over that, and you could compare and contrast where you were then and where you are now. And hopefully, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, we will collectively hit $1 billion through the journey together.
I can't wait.
Great. All right. That sums it up for today's show. We will see you on the next Golden Age episode. And we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you.
Thank you for being here. See you soon.
Bye.